Hey everyone. So today we're gonna critically evaluate one of the best short stories ever written by the greatest of all Indian short story writers. In fact, uh, is none other than R K Narayan. And this particular short story, Out of Business, is in fact taken from his Malgudi days. It narrates the story of one Rama Rao who became jobless because the company he works for as a gramophone agent, he is in fact the gramophone agent for the village Malgudi. This gramophone company collapses and he went jobless. He's completely in trouble now. He unable to get any job. He baffles himself with kind of crossword puzzles which published in newspapers which never win him any kind of prizes. And he was expecting a lot of prizes. Every week he used to send the crossword puzzles to the newspaper company, but he was unfortunate. He was completely unfortunate and was confused. Subsequently, he decides to put an end to his life, the final stage. But by God's grace, in fact, that's what R K Narayan and the narrator says. By God's grace, the train which he was trying to kill himself was late, and he gets sufficient time to change his mind, you know, and decides to begin his life afresh. The author R K Narayan is, as you know, is one of the most renowned Indian writers, Indian English writers, writing in English especially, and the setting for most of his stories is the fictional town of Malgudi. And his novel, in fact, it won the guide, his novel Guide won him the Sahitya Academy Award in 1960. So most of his, or majority of his works are, you know, has got the same setting in the fictional town of Malgudi. So similar as in the case of Out of Business as well. So it's about a family. It's a family consisting of Ram Rao, the chief narrator, or the protagonist, as we can say, and his wife and his kids. He was spending some good time with his family when he was engaged with the gramophone company as the agent for the gramophone company. But everything turns around. Time has changed his fortunes. With the the writer has uh, very precisely controlled the theme of struggle, defeat, desperation, depression, identity, hope, unity, among many other themes, among many other family oriented Indian themes, in fact. So when you compare the short stories of R K Narayan with other short story writers of international acclaim, be it James Joyce or Oliver Wilde or Oscar Wilde or any other writer, it's completely different. And when you go through, when you rip apart the pages of R K Narayan's short stories, you will find some, 90% of Indianness in it, especially when it deals with the theme of family, marriage, kids, taking after the kids, looking after a family. So that's entirely different when it comes to R K Narayan's short. So typical Indian setup, typical Indian family life. How a guy manages his family, how he manages to intertwine the first day of a month till the last day. So in this uh, Malgudi days, it's narrated in the third person. It's unnamed actually. The third person is unnamed. And from the beginning of the story, the reader realizes that Narayan may be exploring the theme of control, controlling. Ramarao, the protagonist, the narrator, um, the main character in this story, out of business, he relies on others doing well. The banks and the gramophone company, in fact. He lives his life, dangerously, even though this may not have been his intention. He's been trying to fix the problems that he faced when the gramophone company collapses, or when the banks collapses and his gramophone company was unfortunately uh, went into a lockdown, shut down. He was reliant on both the banks. He was trying to build up a family. He was trying to build up a societal status, wherein he from the initial part of the story itself, we understood that, we can see that in fact he he constructed a bungalow, or he tried to settle down there. Everything was nice and fine until the collapse of the banks, until the shutdown of the gramophone company. And unfortunately, he became jobless. And with a man who is kind of around 40 plus years, it would be very difficult during that period, when it comes to the earlier part of the 20th century, to find a job. Unemployment was at its peak. Downside for this Ramarao is that he has no job. It's unemployment. It was a period of unemployment. So, aspirations he might have had to improve his life materialistically have faded. He was trying to build up a societal status of himself. He was trying to build a kind of materialistic living, style of living, standard of living for himself and his family, which became completely collapsed due to the fall of the banks and the gramophone company. So many themes are there. Many themes are being dealt by R K Narayan here. Something that is noticeable by the amount of job applications, because he's been trying to get a lot of job, trying to get into a job since the downfall of the bank, since the downfall of gramophone company. Actively trying to get into a job. Has been sending a lot of job applications to different companies, which was also he was not fortunate enough to get one of the jobs. It's not the advantage, or the important thing that we need to understand from here is that even though he uh, was completely down because of a position in which he was completely jobless and he was trying to get into different jobs, he never gave up. Ramarao never gave up. He's not prepared to accept defeat, in fact, because he continues to persevere to the best of his ability to get into a job immediately, because he needs to carry forward the standard of life in which he was going through over the years. A trait, this is in fact a trait that many readers and critics might find admirable, because uh, at a time when you are facing defeat and failure, you may lose your hope, and you may end up in different kind of troubles. But this man, Ram Rao, the narrator, the chief protagonist of the short story, he never gave up. In fact, tried really hard and hard to get into a job. However, it might be important to remember that Rama does get disheartened after each rejection. Each rejection of his job application he received from the potential employers, he gets disheartened, which, in fact, uh, it diminished his morale, his confidence in him, his confidence in himself. In fact, uh, this might be one of the reasons for his the concluding part of the story, wherein he tried to kill himself. So this is following the end of the story, or the concluding part of the story would be one of the themes, one of the results of the themes of desperation in a human mind, in a normal human being. Because Rama spends a lot of time doing crossword puzzles, hoping that he will get some money, some 4,500 bucks, in order to move forward, in order to spend some amount to move to Chennai and Madras, and to get into a job, get into a business on his own. But he was unfortunate. He became completely desperate, and it's a kind of suffocation. He experienced a lot of suffocation. He becomes so preoccupied with the crossword puzzles. Often, I can see from the short story itself, and he spends his time at the news agencies checking to see if he has won, because he was he had great expectations. Because he spent some time. He kind of thought, it was kind of thought process wherein he uh, each and every answer, each and every responses that he made for the crossword puzzle was perfectly, and it was completely thought after. So he was completely confident of winning it one week or the other week. Is putting all his faith in the hope that he might win a prize from the puzzles. It is as though the only hope, that's the only final, kind of hope for Ram Rao in order to achieve something in his life. And there was one jackpot was also there, double the amount of the weekly price, which was also which was also a failure for him. So disastrous it is, disastrous. Rama's preoccupation that money for household expenses is being spent on crossword puzzles. And his wife also supported him for sending it to the news agency. She supported this, and so she had some kind of piggy banks and all, but she spent some amount for him in order to with the expectation that he might get some kind of luck from the crossword puzzle. It is as though Rama is blindly leading himself into an alternative world that is devoid of reality. Rama's circumstances and those of his family are dire. He continues to spend money. He continues to spend money he doesn't have on the crossword puzzles. Though again, the reader is aware of just how desperate Rama is. Rama is completely desperate. He is in deep trouble. There's also no doubting that the continual failures that Rama encounters with the crossword puzzles leads him feeling of depression, moving to depression, suffocation, uh, stagnation. So depressed is Rama that he contemplates suicide. That's the only solution to, kind of elope, escape from the problems, the harassment, the hassles that he faced, the troubles that he faced in his life. He can see no other option. He has spent uh, money like anything. He could not afford to spend on crossword puzzles, and he has not been successful either in life or in luck. It is as though Rama views his life as being a failure. So, considering his life as failure, he contemplates suicide. But plans of God or luck was moving in a different direction. In fact, it's not even the thought of his family can lift Rama's spirits. No, the most important thing he thought was total extinction from life. Things do not go as planned for Rama. There has been a derailment of a train causing a 3 hour delay, which actually, upturned the table. His, destiny was completely changed. There's been a derailment of the train causing a 3 hour delay. This may be important because in this moment, Rama gets a new lease of life. He completely changed his mind, uh, which actually helped him to reverse his thoughts, to lead a life instead of getting into trouble. It is as though he has an epiphany or moment of realization. That particular moment of realization helped Ram Rao to reverse his thoughts on suicide. So understanding that how he has lived his life is the wrong way to live. So that 3 hours, those particular hours, crucial 3 hours, helped Ram Rao to think and rethink about life, about his family, about his opportunities in life, about the essentials of life, about his children, in fact, and that might help him to to think, to rethink about his aspirations of life. So he begins to realize that there is something else worth living for, and that something is definitely his family. And the end of the story is really interesting, as there is a sense it was completely fast. All of a sudden, it became, it concluded, the story concluded. I personally was thinking of a different turn in the short story, but everything changed all of a sudden, and it was all of a, it was like, within a fraction of a second, everything turns around. The end of the story is interesting, as there is a sense of unity between Rama and his family. So, because his family was waiting for him in the evening, because he was not there on usual timing. No longer is Rama interested of living a life. That at the same time, the opposite, the entirely opposite situation is happening within his family. Someone is coming, his tenant of his own house is coming to his house and asking whether they have any plans to sell his bungalow. So it's a kind of entirely opposite understanding of life. One of the persons, or the tenant, is in fact trying to lead a very good life. In fact, his life is moving smoothly. He has developed his standard of living from a rented person to the owner of the bungalow, while at the same time, the owner of bungalow has become a person of rent here. So the entirety of the short story is depicted, is it's clearly portrayed in such a manner that everything and each and everything, especially material life, can be changed, can be turned down, it can be turned around within a short span of life, which is a short span of time, in fact. So rather, with the money he will receive from the sale of his home, he intends to find work in Madras, because that time, in those days, Madras was one of the sought after destinations for most of the South Indians, and especially people from the southern part of India and Sri Lanka as well. So rather, with the money he will receive from the sale of his house, the amount is somewhat around 4.5k, and mm, received from the sale of his home, he intends to find work in Madras. where previously Rama had lost focus. He completely lost focus uh, in pursuit of job, and now realizes that his family is the most important thing in his life. The family is the most important thing in his life. So that's the uh, kind of Indianness. That's the amount of Indianness that you can find here in this short story. It is as though the sale of Rama's home has brought kind of a new sense of hope into his life. It is also, and you can also not. It is also noticeable that Rama, for the first time in a long time, is at one with himself. He became very happy after a long time because he's expecting some money from the tenant who is about to become the owner of his bungalow. So for the first time in a long time, he's at one with himself. He tried to be with himself for some time. It is as though he remembers what his priorities are and the responsibilities that he has as a middle-aged man who has to take care of his family. Hmm? The kind of uh, you know, engagements, the kind of activities, the kind of essentials that you have to face as a person, as a middle-aged man who has to take care of a family. But in that case, he has to take up this particular instance as for himself. So something that was missing when Rama was spending money on the crossword puzzles was he was completely lost with himself. You know, money that he did not necessarily have to spend. At the end of the story, the reader can't help but feel as though Rama and his family's life will improve for the better in the coming days. Because he had plans, in fact, to move to Madras if he gets some money from some 1,500 bucks and move to Madras in order to try his fortune, his luck there in Madras, which as a reader, as an Indian reader who expects a family to move forward in the right manner, we also expect the same, wherein we have to expect that his family life and his life will improve for the better. Though Rama had chased good fortune by buying the crossword puzzles, uh, it is the sale of his house that has brought him the luck that he needs to get himself back on his feet. So that's you have got a lot of lessons from this short story by R K Narayan. R K Narayan's short stories are always showcasing. It always showcases some kind of great lessons, even though it deals with the different themes of control, of struggle, of defeat, of desperation, of depression, of reality, of identity, of hope. Even the crossword puzzle also, you can see that whether to choose in one of the portions, you can see that whether to choose uh, this one, hope, dope, or rope. He felt disturbed for a moment, but he had only to turn his attention to speculate whether hope, dope, or rope. Three, realities in life. Which one will make most sense? And the question was, some people prefer this to despair. That was the question. That was the sentence given to alternate using one of these three words. So some people prefer this to despair, whether it is hope, whether it's dope or rope. So, and his mind was at once rest. So there lies one of the best themes in R K Narayan's Out of Business. You can every time when you face despair, when you face depression, when you face any kind of suffocation in life, hassles, hurdles in life, Always hope for the best. No dope, no rope, only hope. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.